and you're watching my Thursday live. I can see already Traumflug is already here. Hello, hello. Thank you for being here, and I've seen your comments. Okay, you're saying in a comment, yesterday was a remarkable day in Germany. It was Auschwitz liberation. Yes, 80 years. Liberation Memorial Day. In the morning, Jewish guests held speeches in Bundestag. In the afternoon, opposition leader Friedrich Merz had nothing better to do than bringing in a vote overall statement on how to deal with refugees. Highly debated. Neither government party supported, lots of warning the days before. Well, yes, 80 years, and I know in Ukraine, Ukrainians, Ukrainian media, Ukrainian strategic communicators, and Ukrainian Jewish community in Ukraine and outside, they gathered together, and there were discussions how better to talk about it, how to remind, look at the history. Somewhere I've seen that the guy who actually sort of like broke the gate of this concentration camp. I can't remember his name. I need to have a look. He's actually Ukrainian. He's a Soviet soldier, but he's Ukrainian. Yes, it is. Auschwitz and all those concentration camps and Holocaust. It's. I was thinking myself, and 80 years, we've seen so many documentary films, everything, and it's still, I'm struggling as an adult to comprehend how possible, how cruel humans could do that, and it's just terrifying. Yeah, Traumflug, thank you very much for saying this, and we can go further discussing it if it's something. Do you think we should? And maybe our other viewers will add their views. Please let me know what do you think about it, and we will come back to it. So what I actually prepared for us to talk. Tala. I don't understand what Tala is saying in Arabic. So what I prepared for us to look today, it's the Kremlin, how desperate Kremlin is. And it's interesting because we expected it. First of all, 2 weeks ago, we were talking about, hello, Asif. 2 weeks ago, we were discussing Patrushev's statement. If you remember, Patrushev, the closest aide to Putin, and he did a statement in the interview just after the New Year. So we discussed too. Hello, Dan. Hello, Asif. Well, he said in the interview that Ukraine might not exist anymore this year, and that was shocking, and we talked about it, and I suggested that Putin is probably, and Kremlin, they're just desperate. Money running low, people running. You know, the last year in Russia was announced the year of family and kids. And the main narrative for internal population was getting married, making kids, as many kids as possible. And nobody, those celebrities who were saying like, oh, we don't want kids, or child-free, or something, this actually, they were or persecuted or criticized or other things unpopular for these statements. So, yes, Putin did an interview himself, and it's not something, he doesn't have evening address like Zelensky does. So he either coming in this sort of like desperate situation, or at the beginning, just. So this time, I think this interview he did recently, so basically, overall, his interview was another act of Russian disinformation against Ukraine. Kremlin leader tried to push once more Moscow narratives to the audience, nothing new. All used and abused narratives. But I would like to suggest to look from two aspects of it. Literally what he said, basically what he was lying, but we will look at it, and symbolically. So in the interview he gave to Pavel Zarubin, the author of the program Moscow, Kremlin, Putin on Russia 1 TV channel, and according to Putin, Moscow allegedly offered to Kiev to leave Luhansk People's Republic and Donetsk People's Republic, and then would be no full-scale invasion. Well, this statement is absolutely fake, because what Russian army was doing is in Mykolaiv, Kherson, Sumy, around Kiev, Kharkiv. What are you talking about? What did you do to Mariupol? In 3-4 days, the city was surrounded. The sort of like dozens and dozens of thousand people, they just buried. They unknownly buried around the city. What he's talking about? It's all fake. It's all lie, as Putin usually do. So, and of course, we understand if Ukraine would recognize, or if there was such demand, Putin would carry on just doing, carry on with the war. So it's all fake. Trump, look, you're writing, I think my last sentence didn't pass the filter. Okay. On the very same day, first collaboration with war and Nazi happened. Oh gosh. Oh, you see, there's such thing. The Russian forces, Russian money supporting far-right political forces in different European countries, and I think I'm thinking about it to look in the. This live, Kinsley, is about the current events of the week, and I suggest to look at Putin's interview and the aid from US to different non-government organizations. Trump, look, is there something worrying within the German society about this far-right political forces? Is there something you think it's brewing, and they might be supported by a good number of people in Germany? So while I'm waiting for the answer from Trump, look, I would like to carry on with the another narrative pushed by Putin. So he was mentioning a lot about illegitimate presidency of Volodymyr Zelensky, which is boring, and his sort of affiliated media and even bloggers. I saw it even on some comments on my podcast, on Twitter as well, about illegitimate Kiev regime. Who would say, Putin, you didn't have once honest elections, and you have no right to say about it. Ukraine has war. Ukraine can't have election. And so, anyway, and funny enough, Putin was referring to the constitution. He was wrongly, he was making mistakes. But what's interesting, his best pal from Ukraine, who was exchanged because he was trying to escape, Viktor Medvedchuk, he's a lawyer. And I wouldn't be surprised if that was his consultation to Putin about this legitimacy or illegal Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. So it's not that easy, and it's not that simple. And by the way, we all know Putin the historian. So the same with the law. It's absolutely unbelievable. So Putin also said, funny enough, isn't it, that everything, but he means the war, will be over in a month and a half or 2 months if sponsorship money of Kiev partners and munition runs out. Well, he is sure that the West persuaded Kiev to continue the war. That's his idea. I think he was indicating Boris Johnson arriving, while the whole sort of population of Ukraine were so grateful to Boris Johnson because he was the first one who came there, said, yeah, let's fight, we're going to be all right, we can do this, no worries. And it's just Putin. Okay. And we all understand the full-scale invasion happened not because West didn't do something or did do, or Kiev. No one was interested in war, and everyone was trying to avoid, to minimize, because the Russian troops around Ukrainian borders were for a year, and the tension was quite high. So it's all Russian responsibility and the decision of one man. So, and symbolically in this interview, I think, in my opinion, he was saying, President Trump, I've heard you about the deal, about if I don't agree, you would supply more ammunition, more military aid to Ukraine. My money is running out. Your ambitious plan to sell more oil in the US scared me. And yes, let's talk. That's sort of like my feeling, because if you remember, I mentioned it today, Patrusha was discussing about the Ukraine might not exist, this and that, and wow, Kremlin is running low of money. And if you missed, maybe you've seen this article by Moscow Times, that Russia's National Welfare Fund for rainy day, that the government has been saving for years, using the budget's oil and gas super revenues, continued to shrink. By the end of last year, 2024, the fund has shrunk by another third. So it's 2/3 of money gone. And the idea is that partners, those who are still buying oil, cheap oil from Russia, now they slowed down, they paused, and they're waiting what President Trump is going to do, because they're afraid of secondary sanctions. And let's not forget, I mentioned it before, the rumor in the high offices and sort of like the Putin, during negotiations, he wants cancellations or easiness of the sanctions. It's not Ukrainian territory he's very much interested. So let's see, because Ukrainian people, obviously, we don't want to lose any meter of Ukrainian land, because it's our country, it's our people, and even in the occupation, these people fighting, they're suffering, and they're getting killed and tortured. So we're not going to give them up. Trump got back. Yes, there's something brewing, but it's complicated. Remarkable is the campaigning for the upcoming election is about refugees. Even more than economy. Well, interesting. Actually, I was just discussing today with one of my colleagues his possible participation on the podcast to discuss the internal situation in Germany. We'll see if he finds time, and we might have this conversation in the podcast about Germany, because on one hand, I know how strong Russian propaganda in Germany, and there's huge Russian community. Also, Germany has delivered so much military aid, and I know it's difficult, and it's not so much popular within the within the German people. And when I was looking at the different aspects of propaganda, Russian propaganda in different European countries, I noticed that in Germany in particular, they're pushing the narrative about the great Russian culture, and it's all sort of like this Russian, the good face of Russia is done by German intellectuals. Correct me if I'm wrong. I will go, I'm very interested to go further and research it, but it's, for example, in France, they have different narratives, in Baltic countries, something else. So, but in Germany, it kind of, and my friends who live in Germany, they saying the ordinary people, they're just so angry with Ukrainians because they carry on with this. I mean, German people, they blaming Ukrainian people in the war, and they saying, oh, you should give up, Putin's a great guy, let him occupy you because our life has got so much harder. That's the work of Russian propaganda, and this is very worrying. And for me, as a journalist, I think it is worth discussing further, maybe no one episode on the podcast, because Germany has delivered a lot and keeps doing it. I know the Olaf Scholz didn't agree and got made upset. Your minister about it, and there was like very fiery picture about it. So yes, so let's have a look at it, possibly on the podcast. So going back to Putin, his money, so this huge fund which they kind of like were saving for the rainy day, and 2/3 of it off for the war, for paying extra money for people to join, to go to sort of killing Ukrainians for money. It depends on the region. The amount of money is different. Depends if you're from Moscow or if you're from Nizhny Novgorod. It depends, basically. So you spend 2/3 of people's money to kill people from another country. What have you achieved? No hospitals, no education, many people left your country. What have you achieved? And if oil goes down, that's it. You're in a big black hole. What's going to be next? I don't know. I would be very, very worried. So, and Patrushev, who was saying that Ukraine might disappear this year, was he talking about Ukraine? I mean, symbolically, right? Maybe he is afraid that this is the end of their power. Maybe this is the end of Putin, and they feel the end is so close. What do you think? Let me know. Please, please, please let me know in the comments. And the other topic for today, I thought it would make sense to look. It's Trump's aid had stopped, and many Ukrainian organizations, many media, and some, for example, there's a organization, Veteran Hub, they I think, temporarily closed the offices, those who were supporting, helping veterans of war, offering them different services. And as for media in Ukraine, so some media outlets have already stated that funding freeze could affect the activities. For example, Ukrainian, Цукор, Громадське, Слідство.Інфо, and Biguzinfo. Some of the projects we implement thanks to grants are temporarily suspended, wrote Hromadske journalist. So I know this was one of the things during the election campaign, the money is wasted, and I think it's White House because said like drunk Marines or something. They were spending, the previous government, the previous team was spending money not thinking where and how many condoms were supposed to be sent to Gaza. It's like $50 million supposedly to spend on Gaza condoms. It was like, I think one of the journalists counted and said it's about like, if we take population of Gaza in mind, not every citizen of Gaza due to their gender needed it doesn't probably matter, 1,000 condoms per one citizen in Gaza. So it does look ridiculous, but we know what is it, elections, election rhetorics, and how people using and how the candidates using the weak points, and they know where to press, and especially when it comes to money. So I thought is just one of the things that might be very interesting for the American people and people all over the world who probably affiliated with some NGOs and getting this help or part of those teams, and they depend on that. Please let me know in the comments, and let's discuss it and see where this will take us. Also, I would like to remind you about the changes happened on the podcast. So the interview is posted on Sunday evening, 6 o'clock in the evening. It's not 7 o'clock in the morning like it used to be. Also, we have 2 lives now. One on Monday, we're discussing the interview which was posted on Sunday. And on Thursday, we're discussing current events. For example, today, I plan two, but I'm very grateful to our viewer with the nick Tomflug, who suggested to discuss the anniversary, the 80th anniversary of liberation people from Auschwitz. So, what do you think? Harley, only me saying Harley from UAEO said today that some demanding organization had lost funding because of this. Do you know, I didn't see the demining. Yeah, it would be huge problem, because as you know, both sides, Ukrainian side and Russian side, laying is like thousands and probably hundreds of thousands of mines all over, and people getting killed, children getting killed, and especially people in the villages, those who farmers, because they need to look after their crops, they need to carry on working, and those tragedies are happening. Well, let's see, maybe this kind of funding will be renewed, but if not, I am absolutely definitely would talk about it and look at it, this problem, because I am. Let's have a look. I remember there was when there were discussions in Ukrainian society about the demining, how many years it will take to after the finish of war. And it's just war. To demine the whole Ukraine probably would need 750 years, according to time. And because in Ukraine there are a lot of mines, bombs, artillery, ammunition and other explosives, and they polluted the territory of Ukraine so badly that it will take 757 years. So it's horrible. I just hope it will be renewed, because it's not something that you can compromise. I know, for example, I mentioned a few media. I think media should be businesses. It would make sense, but things like demining, it's so difficult. Do you remember how Princess Diana attracted attention, how she bravely was walking, and it was another such a force to this problem and helping the country to look at it and basically work on demining further. So it's something Ukraine will be needed very soon, and a lot. So I'll just remind you, I'll give you a little who is going to be this Sunday as a guest on the podcast. There's someone, if you're interested in Ukraine war, Russian propaganda, Russian aggression against the neighbors, there probably will be very much familiar face to you. And we will be talking about tools of Russian propaganda, those tools the modern Russia is using from Soviet time, and how other countries were badly affected, but they were fighting it bravely. And I won't say any further. Just wait till Sunday, and then tune in on Monday, and we will discuss this propaganda. If you're in different countries and you're also interested in propaganda, and you can see how it works, for example, you have some pro-Russian resources or some bloggers you came across and everything, and you noticed that it's targeted specifically your country people or the population of another country. So let's discuss it on Monday, 7:30 UK time. Propaganda is something is very interesting for me, probably as a journalist, because working with information, with wording, it's another curiosity and another pleasure. And how harmful it can be on the example of Ukraine. And just today, preparing for this live, I came across as one of the Ukrainian journalists. He was working in Donetsk just before the invasion in 2014, and he was saying he's mostly Ukrainian speaking, and if you're aware, in Luhansk and Donetsk, majority of people were speaking like Ukrainian version of Russian. And he was saying that for the past, before the invasion, 3-4 years, people were accepting, and they were, if not responding in Ukrainian, but absolutely Ukrainian felt okay in those regions. Mind Russian propaganda and Russian narratives were very comfortable there. And I noticed interesting situation he mentioned. There were high school boys and they were discussing OUN, it's UPA, it's Ukrainian nationalistic groups just during World War II, and they were fighting for Ukrainian statehood. It's a bit, there are controversial bits of history, but those, while Russia propaganda using them, calling them Nazi, schoolboys in Donetsk were saying, but they were fighting for Ukraine. All they wanted, independent Ukraine. And listening today, I was thinking, actually, it's not, those children are not lost. I'm just worried what happened to them after it was occupied. And another thing I'm working, and it's about captivity, but it's captivity first on the occupied territories. And I was shocked when I discovered the, you know, if you follow in my interviews, I'm looking at your resistant movement. So we looked at the partisans and the spies for Ukraine. So, but the strongest and probably the ruthless, they're actually teenagers. There's boys, 14, 16-year-old, 15-year-old, girls, and Russians, they're unstoppable. They capture them, they torture them. If they also sexual violence, sometimes they're losing their lives or they are killed by Russians. So it's quite terrifying. But I was shocked they're actually children. It's not somebody I would expect from. Yeah, but there's still people even being on the under enemy's control. They still fight and they still bravely doing and waiting for Ukraine to be back. So I think that's it from me for today. I'm looking forward to our Monday live. It's 7:30 p.m. We will be discussing the interview on which is going to be posted on Sunday. And also, I hope our friend from International Legion will join us, Vlad. I have his interview on the podcast. You can check. But he will be talking about documentary they made. It calls The Summertime. Look at the teaser on YouTube. It's about those foreigners who are fighting for Ukraine as a part of International Legion with the DIU. And let's hope we will have great discussion. He's a fantastic speaker, great person. And please tune in, and I'm looking forward to see you. And thank you for being with me today. I'm Jenny Klochko, and have a great evening. Bye.